ask you some phrases, whether you're familiar with them or not. First one is Lancelot. Next one is Guinevere. Next one is Excalibur. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of this before. Camelot. Maybe the next one, Avalon, will ring some bells. Mordred, Merlin, the Sword and Stone, and Round Table Knights. These things have one thing in common. These phrases, these words, all come from the Arthurian legend, meaning the story from King Arthur. So today I am going to share the legend of King Arthur with you because most of you might have heard of this before, but you're not so familiar with the real legend and the story. And the reason I think the legend is important is because legends are often applicable to subsequent cultures, and they are often mentioned or alluded in like poems, television shows, or even novels. So first, let's start with Arthur's father, Uther Pendragon. He was the Briton king. He had no wife, no son. Then there was another person. Her name was Igraine. Igraine was married to the Duke of Tintagel. Tintagel is a place, and Duke of Tintagel means that he rules the place. But Uther had a crush, a secret crush on Igraine. So he was thinking, how should I get this girl? So he decided that he was going to host a feast for the lords and the dukes and the rulers of Britain. So he invited anyone. But however, at the feast, he kept on flirting with Igraine. So the Duke of Tintagel felt really angry, and so he decided to leave with his wife secretly. However, this was a royal feast, so leaving without notifying the king was considered to be a serious felony. So the Uther Pendragon, he was very angry, upset, and disappointed. So he decided to send troops over to Tintagel and to battle the Duke. However, battling the Duke wouldn't get him the girl. So he decided, well, I'm going to go find my friend Merlin. And he asked, Merlin, how can I get this girl? I really like her a lot. And Merlin said, okay, I can help you, but on one condition. You're going to have to give me your first child. In many stories, people like giving their first child if they want to make a promise, like in Rapunzel, Rumpelstiltskin, and stories like that. So Merlin thought of a way. He decided to make Uther Pendragon look like Duke Tintagel, so they would look like identical twins. And Duke Tintagel was actually battling the troops that the king had sent over. So Uther went inside Tintagel Castle, and then he met Igraine, and he spent the night with her. Then the next day, Igraine discovered that her husband had died. But then she said, okay, well, the king is great as well. So they got married, and they gave birth to the son, Arthur. And as mentioned, Merlin said that you have to give me your first child. So Uther gave Arthur over to Merlin. And then Uther died several years later due to depression. Okay, and then because Uther had died, so there was chaos in Britain. And Merlin decided, well, because he was a wizard, so he thought that, well, I need to find someone who is worthy of ruling the kingdom. So he came up with a stone and a sword, and he put the sword inside the stone and said, whoever can take the sword out of the stone will be the rightful ruler of Britain. So this was inscribed on the sword. Whoso pulleth out the sword of the stone is the rightwise born king of all England. A lot of people tried, many dukes, many nobles, many lords. They all tried, but they were in vain. Then later on, Arthur, this person is Arthur who is grown up, and then he tried to pull out the sword, and then he pulled it out. So he was the rightful ruler of the country. And what he was brought up with is that knowledge is better than brute force. So he wouldn't just go and fight places and just to get their treasure and stuff. He fought them because they needed protection or because they needed to fend off other people, like invasions to Britain, like the Saxons. And he also ruled with nobility, courage, and justice. So a lot of people were really happy to have Arthur as a king. Later on, Arthur ruled the kingdom, and he called the kingdom Camelot. Then he made his wife Queen Guinevere. And Queen Guinevere, what's special about her was that her father gave King Arthur the round table we now know that are for knights. What's special about the round table? It means that there is equality and all the knights are equal. They all have an equal say in things and they all should be heard. And also there is the code of chivalry, which is honor, honesty, valor, valor meaning like bold and courageous, and loyalty. These were things that the knights had to obey. And why this round table is so significant? Because it is pretty revolutionary. Because even Jesus didn't think of a round table. He had a rectangular table for the Last Supper. Then the next one, I'm going to talk about some of the knights King Arthur had. These are just a few: Mordred, Percival, and Lancelot. First, I would like to talk about Mordred. Mordred was actually an illegitimate son that came from a knight together with Morgana. Morgana was actually a girl who came before King Arthur married Queen Guinevere. She came and she said, well, it's very late, I don't have a place to stay. And Morgana was really beautiful, so King Arthur decided to spend a night with her, but then she was never heard of again, and she was pregnant, but she didn't tell until many years later. So that's how we have Mordred. So he's an illegitimate son. Next one, let's talk about Lancelot. Lancelot came to the palace and said, oh, I want to protect the queen. And he was really a prominent knight at the time, and he was really good with the sword, and he protected the country. However, he had an affair with the queen. So King Arthur was very angry about that. So Lancelot and Queen Guinevere, they were supposed to be hung, but then they ran away to France. So King Arthur decided to chase them to France for revenge. However, he could not leave the country hanging, so he left the country to Mordred, his illegitimate son. But Mordred had an ambitious heart, so he declared himself king and took Guinevere as wife. When King Arthur heard that, he killed Mordred. He ran back to Britain and killed him. However, when they were battling, Mordred also fatally wounded King Arthur. And King Arthur, as he is a legendary figure, he was carried away by spiritual powers to the place Avalon. Now, there is a saying that says, he, meaning King Arthur, will awaken to defend Britain when Britain has need of him. Someone once said, heroes get remembered, but legends never die. Now, you will be able to have the chance to see this legend and hero, meaning King Arthur, in theaters on March 24th in 2017. Thank you very much.